Welcome to another episode of RfR Deconstruction Stories. I'm Rob Palmer, and I'm an ambassador and helpline agent for Recovering from Religion. Often, someone reaching out to us on the helpline for support asks the agent who's helping them to tell them where they stand on religious matters, or they want to know about their religious background or hear about their deconstruction history. Well, personal disclosure is discouraged on the helpline. So this series is intended as an online resource for people with those questions about our volunteers. Now the volunteer agent can just say, hey, take a look at the RfR Deconstruction Story playlist on the Recovering from Religion YouTube channel. So hopefully these interviews will be helpful for anyone questioning their faith who discovers the Recovering from Religion YouTube channel. In this episode, I'll be talking with another one of our volunteers, Daniel Sokoloff. Welcome, Daniel, and thanks for doing this with me.
Yeah, no problem, Rob. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing today?
I can't complain. I've got a full cup of coffee, so all's right with the world.
So you are a little bit unique in my experience with the volunteers from Recovering from Religion. I haven't met them all, but at least the people who do the helpline, because that's one of the things you do. And you're not from a Christian background. You are from a
Jewish background, Orthodox Jewish to be, specific.
Yeah. It's probably, fairly semi or not religious Jews, but it's quite different from being an Orthodox Jew, correct? Explain a little bit of the difference there.
Well, Orthodox Jews are kind of extreme. I mean, like religious Jews will go to temple on the high holidays. Oftentimes, they might even pray 3 times a day. But Orthodox Jews live in a tight-knit community and really don't associate with the outside world, even though they live in it, unlike other extreme religions,
Yeah, and by not associated with it, I mean, that even includes in some sects intentionally speaking Yiddish as opposed to English, right, amongst themselves at least?
Yeah, they speak Yiddish and will often be speaking English as their second language, which is kind of crazy because they live in America and many times were born here. And they don't really need to be speaking English for most of their time because, they shop at Jewish grocery stores. They don't really watch TV. If they have to talk on the phone, they will have someone do it for them. It's crazy, really. They go to Jewish hospitals. They have Jewish ambulances, they call, which are privately run. You look like you want to ask a question.
So it's definitely very insular, but kind of like I would imagine the Amish community. I've also never talked to an Amish person on their helpline, but
yeah, I would definitely compare them to the Amish. I mean, again, if you go to some parts of Lakewood, New Jersey, you'll see billboards in Yiddish with Hebrew letters. But the difference is that they don't whereas they'll buy up land and stuff, they don't have a giant problem living amongst the common populace. If you go to New York, if you go to Manhattan, you'll see them all over the place. They're just very well trained to ignore the outside world, which is fascinating, really.
So at what age did you leave that community?
I want to say I was about 14, 15 when I left my parents and moved in with my grandmother, who was secular.
Okay, that's pretty. All right. So I'm going to tell you about some of the things, some of the very few Orthodox Jews who've called me on the helpline and what they told me. And you could tell me if this was your experience too, or, clearly not everyone's the same in every community. But in every case, and there wasn't many, I think maybe in 5 years I've talked to 5 people about, and they're all guys, by the way. I've never had a call from a woman in that community. And in every case, when I tried to give them support by saying, oh, we have online resources, we have online support groups, they have no capability of doing that. Even if I said, if you go to a library, no, I can't do that because other people will see me from my community going there. One of them, I think, said they have a kosher phone. So, what's all that about? They couldn't even use the internet.
Yeah, kosher phone is kind of a new thing. That wasn't around when I was growing up, but we didn't even have smartphones. So, yeah, basically, they don't want them going on the internet. That's a big thing because they can find out about the outside world. They can watch pornography, which they see as one of the worst things you can do just because they don't really understand it. And they think that anyone who watches that stuff will become addictive. And also, they have a pathological fear of homosexuality. In fact, back when gay marriage was being legalized throughout the country, just before a bunch for Hodges, they were talking about, in the Jewish communities, they were talking about banning handshakes and stuff like that because they didn't know how far this went. They didn't know.
Whoa. Wait a minute. Like shaking a dude's hand would make you gay? Was that the thought?
That was the thought. I mean, again, these aren't people who engage with science regularly or even watch TV, so they don't know anything really. Conversations. I don't think any chief rabbi issued edicts, but I didn't really look into it, to be honest. It was just something I heard about and was like, okay. But yeah, kosher phones. That is a new innovation. Kosher phones and by extension, kosher computers. You go to you're only buying stuff from Jewish-owned electronic stores.
So they're not shopping on Amazon for stuff.
Generally not. I mean, like, there probably are people that do it, but if you're buying your kid a phone, you're going to get him a kosher phone. And it's a phone that doesn't have a browser. And if it does have a browser, it has special filters that block things that are not approved, which, blocks some useful stuff. But, like,
blocked by, approved by who's is there an overarching head of this organization that would make these dictates as what gets blocked and what doesn't?
I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know. I assume that it was probably voted on by some corporations that are owned by Jews. And when I say corporations, I mean like local businesses and chief rabbis and stuff like that. I really don't know. I've been away for too long, But here's the thing. There have been lots of moral panics in the Jewish community. Years back, someone got the bright idea to market filters to people because there are bugs in the water, right? And bugs are not kosher.
No.
I know. It's true. So basically, it was this whole controversy where people were buying these filters because there were bugs in the water. And, I remember getting in arguments with people because I was like, there's microorganisms everywhere, and people didn't know what that was. And, pretty magical stuff. So, them controlling the internet and creating their own like kosher web, it's not unheard of, but that means that things like recovering from religion are hard to access for these people because that will be blocked on principle. It's not pornography, but it's something that might lead you away from the community, and they really don't want people leaving.
The one thing I was able to give them was the phone number for the organization known as Footsteps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have any dealings with them?
I've reached out to them a few times because I was hoping maybe we could work together in some context, but no one ever got back to me. But I have pointed people to them because Footsteps is great, from the outset anyway. I haven't had any dealings with them, but they offer, resources to find schooling, to find employment. And when you're trying to leave a community like the Orthodox Jewish community, which is all over the place, by the way, it's in Borough Park, it's in Lakewood, it's in DC, they're everywhere. They make it so that, you're educated in their schools. You're taught what they want you to know. And by the time you turn, 14, 15, 16, they're looking to marry you off. And because they don't really use birth control, you're going to have a few kids. And if you want to leave, you need to be able to know how to find a job outside that community. You need to know what a resume is, for instance. You need to know how to use technology. And when I left the yeshiva world, my education was fucked, I say this as someone with, like, an English degree. Like, I have weird gaps in my education. Like, I only read The Great Gatsby when I was, like, in my 20s. Like, we just didn't have the same standards. So something like Footsteps is instrumental. It provides that bridge that people really need to the outside world.
Okay. I watched a documentary which was recommended by someone else. Don't remember who. I think it was called One of Us. It followed 3 people who left that community. And one of them, I remember the scene, he's sitting in front of a computer and he's telling the interviewer, oh my God, when I found Google, I found, oh my God, you could know everything. And then Wikipedia, you could know everything in the world.
Yeah. It was a game changer for sure. I mean, again, I was part of that community before they caught wind of what the internet was, I guess. Like, there were no kosher phones or internet, like, blocks or whatever. So, yeah, like, Google it changed everything for me. because I had some serious questions about what we were being taught.
So you said you left
Yeah.
at 14. So younger than 14, you were starting to question these things.
Yeah, well, I became religious when I was like, I want to say 6, right? Like I had a sister die and my mother got all hyper religious and we integrated into that community. But I had been exposed to the outside world. I wanted to be a paleontologist like a lot of little kids do, And I was being told that dinosaurs weren't real. The non-Jews made them up. And I had been to museums. I had grown up watching dinosaur documentaries. I don't know what they were talking about. And I was like, oh, I saw the bones. And I was told, well, those were the Nephilim, the angels came down.
What? Wait. Explain Nephilim.
Yeah, I know, right? For the acclimated, the Nephilim are angels that came down to Earth. Well, and the Nephilim are their children.
So dinosaurs were angel babies? I don't understand.
I don't think these people had ever seen like a Tyrannosaurus Rex fossil or something. But yeah, they were like, these were super races that were wiped out in the flood. And that was kind of astounding to me because I knew that dinosaurs were, related to theropod birds. Like I knew basic stuff, when I was like 8 or 9. Like, come on. Other people said that there were previous worlds before this one that God wiped out, which I didn't know what to do with. The problem
that's not biblical.
No, it is not. That's the fun thing about Judaism, though. It has an expanded universe that is canon, depending on who you ask. It's like talking about comic books, It's like, well, this is...
Yeah, we've had that argument. I only know the MCU from the movies. I don't know the comic book, so...
Yeah, in the MCU, the Norse gods are just aliens, but in the comic books, they're beings of faith and imagination made real,
Wow, yeah. I like the film version better then. I can buy the alien part.
It's more plausible, for sure. Not as exciting, in my opinion. It depends on how you look at it.
All right, so you're young, you're like into science, at least some form of science, and you're learning that there's contradictions into the Old Testament, which was your only testament, like, what you were being taught about this kind of stuff, and that was making you question things. Did you talk to other people about this? Did they appreciate those questions?
Yeah. I remember asking, because we were told that when Moses sent the spies into the land of Israel, they saw giants, and they were horrified. And I was like, well, we don't find giant skeletons. And the rabbis were just like, oh, they were covered up, You can't trust what you read or what you see. If it's not coming from, the Baal Shem Tov, you can't trust it, basically. Like, that's the thinking. That's
Wait, what was that? What was that word?
Baal Shem Tov. He's just a big rabbi that they reference.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just like, I just grabbed him as a joke. But they just take there are things called midrashes, which are, how do I explain this? It's kind of like fan fiction. It's where people would take the Torah, which has gaps in its storytelling, and they would add context to it, right? Like, I think that entire story about Abraham destroying his father's idols, I think that comes from a midrash. I don't believe that's in the Bible, right?
I have never heard this, but then again, I was raised Catholic, and we didn't read a lot of the Old Testament, so...
We were all raised with it. All Jews know that story. It's not in the Bible. Like, the young Abraham's dad sold idols. So Abraham one day kind of figured out they weren't really gods. So he smashed them all. And the dad is like, what'd you do? You broke all my statues. And he's like, no, that big one holding the axe killed them all. And the dad was like, "Durr." It's funny. It's so funny talking about this because, like, when we were in yeshiva, we were told that the non-Jews worshipped statues, and they were stupid for worshiping statues.
That's only the Catholics, by the way.
Only the Catholics. Yeah, because they actually have the idol worship. But no. But that's the thing about paganism that I learned when I was a little older. They didn't think that the statue of Zeus was Zeus.
Right.
But we were told that that's what they did, right? So...
Yeah. I was joking, of course. Catholics don't really believe.
I know. You're being facetious, but it is kind of funny that they have all these graven images of Mary and Jesus and stuff.
Yeah. Yes, graven images. I have only heard the word graven from the Bible too. I've never heard that anywhere else. Like, I don't know what that means exactly. Out of the
language. Yeah.
I don't know what that means. So, all right. So, were you raised? I often tell people that most Jews I know who are not Orthodox and religious, they don't really think about a rapture. They don't worry about going to hell if they do something bad. They don't even talk about heaven. So, what was your background regarding those whole things, the eschatology and hell and heaven?
Well, we were taught that there was a world to come. We were taught that, like, when we died, we would go to Gan Eden, which is the Garden of Eden. We would go to heaven, and yeah, I know, right?
Wait, those were the same thing? The Garden of Eden was heaven?
It's a place in heaven. I know, that's weird, right?
It used to be on Earth, so it was moved to heaven. I don't understand where that comes.
I never asked.
Okay.
We were told that everyone was there. We were going to meet Abraham and all the patriarchs, and it was going to be great, and we would be under the throne of God. So I guess the throne of God is like the sky. I don't know. But
But how bad if you were a bad person?
well, we were told that there was a hell. It was called Gehenna.
Okay.
Different, of course, depending on who you asked. But we were told that, like, we would burn in fire if we put our tefillin on the wrong way. That's our phylacteries that you wear on your arm and on your head. I think it was on this arm actually, but yeah, it's been a while. There was a hell, there was a heaven, and eventually, Mashiach, the Messiah, would come. He'd be some special magic rabbi from the line of David, and all of our buildings with us in it would fly to heaven. I mean, would fly to the land of Israel.
What?
And,
wait, what?
yeah. We were just waiting for him to lead the Jewish people back to Israel, and we
would physical buildings would be uprooted and lifted across the Atlantic?
I mean, I was told that, so I don't know how mainstream that is, but Torah Vodaas in Brooklyn,
wow,
in 2000s, they were telling me this. And the dead people, they would caverns underground would open up, and they would roll to Israel to get back home.
Under the ocean, okay.
Yeah, I suppose. I've never done it myself, but maybe the Earth is hollow in Judaism. I'm not 100% sure on that, but
well, that goes with the latest Godzilla thing. So yeah,
yeah, the hollow Earth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. They actually have a tradition. I don't know how widespread this is. I don't think like my recent great aunt who died was buried like this. Like, I don't think this is a mainstream thing, but the Hasidim definitely do it. They will put a break or a crack in the box so that the dead person can break out easier. So,
Okay. So this is kind of like the zombie apocalypse, and I guess some Christians believe some form of that too.
I don't know.
So what were your thoughts? What were you told about Jews who were not religious Jews?
We were told they were self-hating Jews, that they were no better than the Nazis, really. They had turned on their people, and that, like, they would fare no better than we did if the non-Jews succeeded in their efforts to, I don't know, kill us or whatever. There's a strong persecution complex to Orthodox Judaism. And that's a big reason why, like, when I talk about reaching out to things like Footsteps, they're petrified. They believe that everyone is out to get them. Like, we were told about the Holocaust every day, I'm trying to think. What did you specifically ask? I'm sorry, Rob.
Yeah, well, like, what did religious Jews think of not religious Jews? I think you answered that question. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and like, what did they think of the Goyim?
Well,
they're all going to hell, I guess.
I don't know. It's like there's this attitude of like there are 7 laws that they're supposed to follow. They're called the laws of B'nai Noach, which is the sons of Noah, right? That they're supposed to do. It's like, don't steal, don't worship idols, don't murder. It's 7 basic things.
Is this not the 10 Commandments?
It's not the 10 Commandments. It's like the 10 Commandments missing 2 or 3 or so, I don't know them, to be honest with you. I don't know them offhand. We can look them up if you really want, but there is a concept of the good goy, the good non-Jewish. There's also the concept of the Shabbos goy, but that's different.
Wait, what's that? What's that mean?
So on Shabbos, the Sabbath, right, on Friday night into Saturday day, you're not allowed to do anything. It's Shabbos. That's the day God rested. So you can't turn lights on. There are 39 specific things you can't do. One of them is light a fire. You can't light a fire, so you can't turn on lights because they consider the spark of electricity to be a fire.
But how about flipping the knob on a gas stove?
That's not allowed either. No, that's definitely not allowed. It's a big no-no. So if you leave the stove running or you need a light on, well, send your son to go grab the Shabbos goy down the street,
I was the Shabbos goy for my neighbors. I didn't know the term.
That's
I
so
lived
funny.
literally right. We shared a common driveway with Jewish folks, and I was asked to do those things. I did not know there was a name for it. Wow.
Shabbos goy, yeah. It's not really like a term of like, disparagement. It's just something funny,
Yeah. You're handy. We can get you to do these things because you're not going to burn in hell or whatever if you do them, I guess, or you are already, and it doesn't matter. I don't know which way.
One or the other. I don't think they have to keep the Sabbath holy. I don't think that's one of the 7 laws, but I don't think anyone cares, to be honest with you. They don't expect anyone to follow that,
All right, so you had all these questions, and then you're very young for going through that. So then, how did you wind up? Yeah. So what else was bothering you besides yes, dinosaurs are real? That you wound up on a path out.
Yeah, I didn't. The 10 plagues was pretty outrageous. I kind of had a hard time really buying that because look, I mean, I'm an imaginative guy. I have toys all over my little office down here. I play with Transformers. I like things like that, but I know the difference between reality and fiction, and like that seemed outrageous. The whole Jews going through the desert and having all these miraculous wars. Also, the constant genocide and slavery, especially of like young girls, was kind of like horrifying to me because we were told constantly that God was merciful and kind, and we were the chosen people, and we were better than all the other ones. And I'm like, but you're acting like Decepticons, So that bothered me. I didn't like that.
And for people who don't know, that sounds like it could be a Jewish term, but it's not. That's a Transformers thing.
They're the bad ones.
Yes.
But like, yeah, so I didn't like any of that, but I went along with it doggedly because I was like, I was afraid of going to hell. I remember I turned on a light once and I thought I was going to die for a few days. I thought God was going to strike me down. The punishment for violating the Sabbath is death by stoning.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't fuck with the Sabbath.
So
whoa. We were told that like though the Sanhedrin, which is the I guess there's a Sanhedrin in that's what they call the Supreme Court in Israel now, but the Sanhedrin was the high court in the Bible. That's what the kingdom of Judah did. We were told that even though the Sanhedrin isn't around, God's still watching and he'll get you,
Wow. Yeah, I actually heard a call to one of the ACA shows, maybe the Atheist Experience or one of the sister shows, or maybe it was The Line,
right,
where a former Orthodox Jew talked about living in fear of being struck down because he broke the rule. Tell me if this is a rule or not. He could not tear toilet paper on the Sabbath.
Yeah, you're not allowed to rip. You're not allowed to do that. That's one of the 39 forms of work you may not do.
Well, I'm going to get nasty here, but how does one... does one hold it in for 24 hours? Like what? What happens here?
No. Before Shabbos, you grab a shopping bag and you take a toilet paper and you rip it. You rip the whole roll.
Oh, so you prepare.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people have closets full of like ripped toilet paper just for baby wipes. I mean,
okay, so as long as you prepare in advance. I see.
Oh yeah, are you kidding? That's the way to do it.
Oh, jeez.
Religion's awesome.
He says sarcastically.
You can't make this stuff up. Yeah.
You could, and they did.
Well, yeah, right.
All right. So, what got you leaving at such a? When did you actually, say I'm done with this? I don't want to live in this kind of environment with these controls. Like, yeah, what happened there?
Yeah, I hated it. I missed eating McDonald's and stuff like that. I was young. I was a kid. I mean, what do you want? But like, there were so many things. Like, we weren't allowed to watch TV, and we got a TV after 9/11 because things were so scary. My mother felt like we had to know what was going on in the world. So, yeah, it was just things like that. But the big thing that got me out was I got my own computer. And one day, in between looking up facts about Wolverines and Peregrine Falcons and Pokemon strategies and Narishkite like that, I punched in what really happened in Egypt with the Jews. And
ooh.
my surprising finds were nothing. It never happened. Like the pyramids and those cities, those treasure cities for the pharaoh were built by artisans, not Jewish slaves, who were
How
very.
do you know? How did you know that that wasn't just lies by the nasty archaeologists being I don't know, Satan is controlling them.
Well, I mean, considering the fact that I hadn't lost my faith in biologists and paleontologists and all that stuff, I felt okay trusting the archaeologists because everything in our secular, because we did do secular studies, our secular history books we trusted, and that came from the same sources, and I was like, okay, they're lying to me. I knew it. Like that was my reaction. Like we'd done the book of Jonah and the whale. You know what I mean? And that was like kind of like, okay, that happens. I mean, I guess God can do anything, but I don't know. Seems like a roundabout way of doing things to me to make him live inside a fish. Better ways to scare a person, in my opinion. Didn't help that the fish was called the Leviathan fish, the Leviathan fish, and that sounded like it sounded like something Thor might fight, which ironically he does. But,
Okay, so you find out that the basics of what created the Jewish peoples, the Exodus didn't happen, and then where'd you go from there?
that was it. I stopped wearing my tefillin for the most part. I would do it at yeshiva, but I wasn't going to shul. It was stupid. It was all a waste of my time. It was all a giant lie. I told my mother, and she did not let me. So my stepfather didn't care. He was like, "Oh, if that's how you feel, that's okay. That's all right. You don't have to go to shul. I don't care." He's like, "Just in the house, keep kosher, and don't influence the other kids." And I said, "Okay, Tati, whatever."
So
Well,
you did keep kosher because that's another like that's a fairly. I mean, maybe if you're used to it, it's not bad, but like to me, it seems from an outsider, it seems like a horrendous restriction on what you can eat if it's not really there's no reason for it.
it wasn't a horrendous restriction because we just went to the kosher grocery store down the street,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to buy anything I wanted there. There wasn't a pork section, like you know. It's funny. Me and my mother, something we missed from when we were secular was a Philly cheesesteak. And, yeah, I
Meat
know.
and cheese is something that is not good together, right?
Correct. I have more to tell. But first off, she bought the shaved beef, and then we put mayonnaise on it, and it was close. It wasn't good, but it was close. It was close. Funnily enough, non-dairy cheese was a really big thing in the Jewish community. Like
Uh,
we had cheeseburgers and stuff. It was just it was called Tafudi. That was the big brand.
oh,
Um,
I remember hearing about that. Okay.
this was made from tofu. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like cheating to me. There's a lot of stuff that goes on modern Orthodox community that I have heard about that just sounds like cheating. Like I talked to, I asked you if you could flip the knob on a stove, but I've heard there's like ways that the ones where it's just motion sensitive. You wipe your hand and it comes on, and that doesn't count, or things like that. There's this thing about you can't leave your house or something, but in order to enable a larger area you could go on the Sabbath, they'll put this wire around the whole neighborhood, and therefore seems to me cheating from the intent of the scripture about that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's called the Eruv. The Eruv is a fixture in these communities, so you're not allowed to carry outside of your home or the city limits. It's something like that. There's a predefined area that you're not allowed to carry outside of on Shabbos. It's one of the 39 things you may not do. Well, the solution. So we have something called the heter, which I suppose is Yiddish for a loophole or workaround, where you tie a wire or a string around the whole community. And now it's all your house. It's all your domain. And you can just carry. So when it rains and the Eruv falls, it's a disaster. It's like, oh no, the Eruv is down. We can't leave. You know?
How big can that get? Is like the one around all of Brooklyn?
No, what it is they tie them around like I want to say like 4 block radiuses or something like that.
Wow.
It's pretty nuts. And the city doesn't. The city's down with it. They don't care. I mean, they send people to help them put it up, like the electric company, because you can't have normal people climbing the electric lines.
Okay, so one of the other things I hear about, especially from Christians, and we've had a lot of talks about this on RFRX, our weekly live stream show every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time,
You should
by
watch
the
it.
way,
It's great.
which is Christian purity culture. And, Christians who've been raised in fundamentalist sects are traumatized by what they went through regarding that. So, like, what's the deal in the Orthodox Jewish community regarding that and yourself?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the big thing, right? Women are prized in weird ways that other religions really don't do. Like when a woman has her period, she needs to go to what's called the mikveh because now she's impure. She has to be cleansed. And what a mikveh is it's a well of rainwater that you bathe in nude and you dunk your head under. I think there's a blessing. I've never gone to the mikveh personally. I'm not a woman, so. And yeah, you emerge and you're purified. A married woman is not allowed to lay with her husband while she's impure, by the way. It's called a nida.
Wait a minute, for how long is this period of impurity?
Oh, as long as she's bleeding. And when she's done, she has to do the thing. She has to go to the mikveh.
Wow, okay. And so this is not something you do at home? You have to go to some public place?
Yeah. Mikvahs are all around the city, generally speaking. They're within the community, and it's really just like, usually they're in shuls, they're in synagogues. The way it works is like there's I don't actually know. I think there's like a drain that collects rainwater. I'm not 100% sure because it has to be filtered,
Wow. Okay, so that's one aspect of the purity culture.
That's a big one. But the other one is boys and girls go to different schools. Yeshivas for boys, Beis Yaakov schools for girls. They are taught different things. The girls are not taught the Talmud, but the big thing is the dress code. They all wear
Wait, define that word. Talmud.
Oh. The Talmud is a collection of work written before and after the Second Temple era. I guess that's not true. Before and during the Second Temple era.
So some extra biblical Jewish philosophy or rules.
It's a commentary on another book of work, which is the Mishnah, which is called the written Torah. It's mostly rabbis arguing about laws that they extricate from the Torah.
Okay, so sorry for the interruption. Go on.
That's fine. These are complex terms. Judaism is a monolith. Nobody knows anything about it. So yeah. But yeah, Beis Yaakov girls, they all wear the same stockings. They wear the same skirts. And when they grow up, like girls they're head to toe, man. You'll see women walking around in the summer wearing full business suits and long skirts and stockings and stuff. They'll have slits, but their stockings will be, opaque. You won't be able to see anything.
I presume they don't go to the Jersey Shore.
That's the fun thing. They do go to the beach. They just cover their hair and wear bathing suits that don't expose their thighs. Yeah. The fun thing about covering your hair is there's another heter that I've always thought was laughable, where you're not allowed to show your hair. Your hair is for your husband, right? Like that's the thinking, as these patriarchal religions often are. And but there's a workaround where you are allowed to wear a wig made of human hair, and it always looks awful. Like
right. There are Orthodox girls around me here, and I see them, the women with a bunch of little kids, and so I know they're married and therefore wearing a wig, and you can't tell. They look really good. The wigs are really good.
Depends on how much you spend. Wigs can be like a few $1,000s, so
So it's kind of, as you said, like it's one of these. I don't know. I'm going to get around the actual rule, which is not to show your sexy hair, but I'm going to put other sexy hair on me. It's like, and that's okay.
Exactly. That's totally kosher and legit. It's not that controversial. I think
so. One of the things, much like the quiverful movement in fundamentalist Christianity, let's have a quiverful of babies for Jesus. Right, that's the thing in the Orthodox community too. That women are essentially, it's their job to have as many babies as possible.
Pretty much, yeah. They don't want them going to school or anything like that. It's very controversial when a woman does, and yeah, they want them having babies. Most of these women, they'll have babies every year if they can, and it's not uncommon to have families with 12 kids. In fact, I have 8 siblings, all with Hebrew names, incidentally.
Wow. So did you talk about any of this with your siblings when you were starting to have these questions and deciding to not wanting to follow the rules?
Nah, they were little. They were real little. There's a 9-year age difference between me and the oldest one. My mother got remarried, so,
Okay. All right. So tell us about your journey out.
Oh boy. Well, yeah. I mean, it was a lot of arguing, a lot of time spent in mental institutions because, like arguing with your mother who's abusive anyway. And, being part of a world you really don't want to be in. Like, I had friends on the internet, like, there were girls I was talking to from outside the community, which that was a big no-no, especially when one of them was named Mary. That was a problem. And yeah, I was cutting myself and stuff. It wasn't great. you know? It's hard to know how to cope with this kind of stuff when you're in the thick of it and you're like, 12, 13, 14. And eventually my mother was like, get him out of my house. And my grandmother came and took me, And I wish that could have been a better transition too, because I didn't know anything. I still had a very black and white morality system, and there were things I was uncomfortable with. Like, I did not understand transgender people, let alone queer people in general. You know what I mean? Like, I had an attitude that freedom was essential. So I wanted people to be able to live their lives, but I was very conservative. You know what I mean? Like right out of yeshiva. Like I refer to those years as right wing Dan because I was a mess. I had very liberal friends because look, let's be honest. I've always been a poet, and I've also always been very Jewish. So my friends were people running the poetry community who were all little Jewish nerd kids, and they were aware that my douchiness was because I had come from this hyper religious background. Even though I fought against it, I was still tainted by it. It had influenced my thinking, and I was very conspiracy minded. I was convinced that Obama was going to initiate Operation Cable Splitter and Rex 84 and
I've not even heard of those.
You're not missing much.
I don't know that I want to know what they are.
Yeah. But that was my transition was crazy. It wasn't until I graduated high school that I kind of realized what I was doing, and I also coming out of the closet helped. I was kind of like, oh, okay, it's not that crazy,
In a religious sense?
Not even a religious sense, because I wasn't religious. I was.
No, I mean, coming out of the closet term it gets used.
Okay. I meant as a bisexual person, kind of realizing that not everyone likes men. They don't just because I used to think that everyone had these thoughts. They just kept it to themselves, because they didn't want to be gay.
Oh, okay. So that's yeah. So one of the things I've noticed being a helpline agent is we have a larger percent than I would believe is in the general population of people contacting us who are not straight. They're right. Gay, they're trans, they're non-binary. And I think that's because, you didn't mention that as a reason for coming out, but of the religion. But if you're in a religion and you have all these other questions about, hey, there are really dinosaurs and, the earth can't be 6,000 years old. And then on top of that, you get, you're fundamentally broken because you have these feelings or whatever in one direction that doesn't fit with the quote unquote norm. That's another reason to leave the religion and, in fact, to contact us.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually talked to people who were stuck in the community and had sexual encounters with people outside the community, and they just wanted to talk about it because they weren't going to leave. They didn't have the means to leave, I had a scare once where me and my friend, we were running around the school, and our school was big. It was a huge building. And at one point we were being chased by someone else, and so we hid in the bathroom. We went into the last stall and went like this. And he ran in, ran out. So then we walked out. We're like, okay. Well, this guy, he starts yelling at us. He takes us upstairs and he separates us. He's like, you're in a lot of trouble. What were you doing in that bathroom stall? And I'm like, nothing, we were hiding. And he's like, what were you doing? What were you doing? What were you doing? Over and over again. And he left and went back to yelling at my other friend in the other room. So I just left. It wasn't until years later that I remembered it and was like, oh, he thought we were gays.
Okay.
He was gonna report us to Rabbi Wilner and get us fucking thrown out and ostracized probably. So yeah, it's a real fucking thing. It can feel like death, especially when you're the matchmaker is sending you on dates with prospective wives, and it's like, I like men, I don't like women. And
you wouldn't. You're saying you were thinking that. You're not saying that to the matchmaker.
Yeah, you're not saying that to the matchmaker. But feeling like you're broken afterwards, because I didn't have that issue. That wasn't an issue for me. And it's because I'm privileged to be bisexual. So whatever, being attracted to Tom Cruise isn't the end of the world, really.
But he's a Scientologist. Come on, Daniel.
He's a Scientologist, but he's got a nice jawline, you know. He's real good at fighting aliens on Edge of Tomorrow, also. But like, my point is that like, the sexual stuff wasn't an issue for me, but it's an issue for a lot of people, you know. Because I had some like latent prejudices that were built into me, where I didn't like Muslims, I didn't like Catholics at all. I was like, to me, they were all crusaders, which is hilarious, but that's how we were taught, you know. And like, it wasn't until like I really took a more critical look of the world, and it took the girl I was dating going off to West Point because she was so conservative for me to like really evaluate my prejudices, that I was kind of like, oh, the land of Israel is kind of awful. Like, the state of Israel is kind of awful. Like, those people were there and they just gave them that land and they're genociding. They've been genociding them ever since. Every chance they got. Imagine that, you know? And, you know, realizing that, like, the only reason I had a problem with gay people at all was because I was afraid. It was different, and so I was intimidated by it, and that, hey, I kind of like men too. These were all things that took me a while. Like, that was another layer. It's like not believing in the thing and leaving the thing are one point, but there are the triggers and all the little moving parts of your brain that get configured that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
my understanding is that's what we call deconstruction, right?
Deconstruction, yes.
You can deconvert, meaning I'm just not that religion, whatever it is anymore. But then there's all these other things in your head that aren't necessarily directly connected with, you know, the doctrine of the Holy Book, but it's been added to your belief structure, and you have to decide what you think about those things, right?
Yeah. And that, hearing it described that way didn't happen until I started volunteering with Recovering from Religion, you know.
How long ago was that?
That was, I want to say, a year ago now. I started volunteering after the election, the second election of Donald Trump. I was devastated. I do a lot with my poetry magazine, but that's mostly trying to get people to make art and express themselves. I didn't feel like that was enough. I felt very scared and sad and just horrified, and I was watching probably The Line, and they did their thing where they mentioned Recovering from Religion, and I'm like, hey, I've been thinking about this for years. I'm going to go to the website and apply to be a volunteer, and here we are.
I'm glad you caught that episode and found out about it.
Yeah.
So we're getting near the end of the time here. Do you tell folks about the other things you do? You slightly mentioned it there.
Oh, like my artistic stuff and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah. I'm a poet and novelist. I write fantasy novels. You know, I try to critique modern American culture through the lens of dark fantasy. So my main character is a demon prince who consistently does the wrong thing. You can find that stuff at demonlandbooks.com. I also write poetry. I have a book of poetry called Dream of the Ash, where I explore like Norse mythology and American culture in general. It's also just good poetry. But the big thing is Death Wish Poetry Magazine, which is a magazine I run. You know, we are still waiting on our second physical edition, but we publish dark and gothic writing and art, and we also run a weekly podcast called Demon Toast, where we talk about gothic and horrific literature. It's very fun.
Demon Toast, and that's available on all your podcast streaming apps, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually while we're recording this, I'm in the process of editing our Del Toro's Frankenstein episode, because that was kind of a big deal in our world. So, you know.
Cool. All right, I think we can end it there. Thanks so much again for giving me the time and sharing your story with viewers of this episode, and also our playlist, again, on Recovering from Religion on YouTube.
Yep. Remember, guys, you're not alone.